We can give you a Cinemax presentation here. Trust me. Just what you want and then some.
I think that's what we're all
Can you
worried
put
about.
the camera farther away? Alrighty. Momentarily.
Hello, Bob
Okay.
Hageman.
Say what?
Ready?
Hello, Mr.
Bob?
Hageman.
Hello. Ooh.
Hey, ready, Bob?
Yep.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I will call the, February board meeting of the Jefferson County Board of Legislators to order. And before we begin, I'll read the preamble. The meeting is being conducted under the extraordinary circumstance of a public health emergency, COVID-19, and under Governor Cuomo's Executive Order 202.1, without permitting public in-person access to the meeting, authorizing the meeting to be held partially or completely with members appearing by remote conference call or similar service. And the meeting is being live streamed via the web and recorded, including the participation of members appearing by remote link. With that said, the meeting is called to order, and I would ask for Mr. Hageman, please do a roll call of members. Bob, unmute.
Try it again. There we go. Legislator Ferris,
I am here.
Nabawanik,
Here.
Gerald,
Here.
Peck,
Here.
Grant,
Here.
Reed,
Here.
Calarco,
Here.
Maxon,
Here.
Monticelli, Cantwell,
Here.
Johnson,
Here.
Doldo,
Here.
McBride,
Here.
Drake,
Here.
Gray.
Here.
Very good.
Okay. So before we conduct the agenda of the tonight's meeting, we have a special guest with us, which everybody can see online. Our member of Congress is with us this evening, and just by way of an introduction, Elise was first elected in 2014 and began serving in January of 2015. She's starting her fourth term in office. Her committee assignments include member of the Armed Services Committee, where she's a ranking member of the Subcommittee of Emerging Threats and Capabilities, and is a member of the Subcommittee on Readiness. She also serves on the Education and Labor Committee, and she serves on the Subcommittee of Higher Education, Workforce Development, Civil Rights, and Human Services. And she's also a member of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. And without further ado, I would welcome our Member of Congress, Elise Stefanik.
Well, thank you, Chairman Gray, and thank you to all the legislators from Jefferson County. I appreciate this opportunity to give you a brief update. I know there's a lot going on at the tail end of last year and as we start this new Congress. So I've been giving these updates to the county boards of supervisors and county legislatures across the district, and I look forward to seeing many of you in person again soon. Thanks to many of you who attended the recent event at Fort Drum, which was the former vice president's last public event. So it was a real honor to see you there and to host him there. I thought today I would just briefly discuss the COVID relief package that passed at the very end of 2020, because there are a number of important provisions that are important to the North Country and many of your constituents who I hear from you about their concerns. So number one, in the COVID relief package, for our small businesses, I was continuing to hear challenges that our North Country small businesses were facing. There's $325 billion of additional funds for the Paycheck Protection Program. Importantly, small businesses are eligible for a second draw of the PPP program if they meet the following requirements. Number one, they have to have utilized 100% of their first round of PPP funds Number two, they have to demonstrate that in 2020, they saw a 30% decrease in revenue in Q1, Q2, or Q3 when you compared that to 2019. The reason why that's important is it allows us to target small businesses and industries that are particularly hurting as they work through COVID. In addition, the deductibility issue. So many businesses who applied for PPP, there was the assumption, and it was a correct assumption according to congressional intent, that they would still be able to deduct expenses, payroll, utilities, rent from their taxes. The Department of Treasury misinterpreted that, did not follow congressional intent, and gave some really concerning guidance to small businesses saying they would not be able to deduct that. I was able to work directly with the Secretary of Treasury, Secretary Mnuchin, to address that and make sure that businesses are able to deduct those important expenses. That's really important as we don't want to burden our small businesses with increases in taxes. For our schools, as our school districts have been working to safely remain open as much as possible for in-person learning for our students, there is $5 billion allocated to New York State alone for direct aid to K through 12 schools. By law, that has to be allocated to the school districts from the state in the year of 2021. So we want to make sure those funds go as quickly as possible. Higher ed institutions. To date, I've announced over $170 million of funds to North Country higher ed institutions. Importantly, for Jefferson County, JCC has received millions of dollars of funds, and we're continuing to work with JCC on their priorities and needs moving forward. For our hospitals, we worked closely with all of our North Country hospitals, but with some of the specific challenges, for example, that Samaritan faced, Carthage, and really all the hospitals all across the district. And I announced over $140 million to our hospitals. And I was just on the phone with Lewis County talking about the support for Lewis County General Hospital, since I know the Tri-County region, all of the hospitals have faced challenges. The border. So that's the COVID relief bill that passed in December. Moving forward, we continue to work to push the new administration as well as our bilateral conversations for a metrics-based and more certainty when it comes to safely reopening the border. I announced with my co-chair of the Northern Border Caucus, Brian Higgins, who's from Buffalo, our sort of parameters and prioritization of the following steps we think need to happen as quickly as possible. Number one, vaccinations for CBP officers to ensure that we're able to safely reopen the northern border. Number two, prioritizing family reunification. Hear from lots of family members across the district who have family either on the Canadian side or the US side, where they can take a plane into the US, but they can't cross the border in a car. That doesn't make sense. Property owners on either side of the border. Another issue, particularly along our lake and river communities. And then reciprocity for boating. So the waters issues and territorial issues related to the waters and the anchoring, that needs to be addressed mainly from the Canadian side, but we want that to be a part of the reopening process. So we will continue to push both in conversations with President Biden and his team, as well as conversations with Canadian officials for a metrics-based, more certain reopening process. The vaccine distribution and allocation. We continue to provide billions of dollars of funds. In that last COVID bill, there were billions allocated across the country for vaccination, distribution, and allocation. To date, the federal government has provided 2.93 million doses. Above that to New York State, and New York State has allocated 1.92 million. We need to continue to push for certainty from the state, for making sure that they're covering all of the district. I know that JCC has the facility, but some of the counties I represent don't have a vaccination site. So that accessibility is important. I'm also working and just put out a statement for prioritization of cancer patients. We've heard from many constituents who are in the middle of cancer treatment, and they have not been able to get the vaccine, despite going in and out of the hospital and healthcare facilities for their care. We want to make sure they're prioritized. I think it was an oversight from the CDC in New York State, so we're going to push them on that. Moving forward, the COVID package that has been proposed by President Biden is $1.9 trillion. So far, that is a partisan package. It includes provisions such as a $15 minimum wage, stimulus payments for illegal immigrants. Republican senators have countered with a $600 billion package. So those negotiations are ongoing. Again, I know the priority is making sure that the funds really focus on COVID relief and that our counties and municipalities have access to direct funds. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Chairman Gray, and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so if you have questions, if you just hit the raise hand function, then I will call on you. I'll start question number one. There's FEMA reimbursement that is covering most of the state sites right now currently for the vaccination process. Is that anything in our prototype or our model that we have, which is more of a collaborative effort and not necessarily a state-based effort? Will we be able to capture any of the FEMA reimbursement for any of the entities that are participating in that? It is a drawdown considerably of their staff and their resources. And if we, as the allocation goes up and we start to see more doses and we have to operationalize this, it may require, obviously it's going to be a burden on a lot of these institutions to staff it. So.
Yeah, so for the FEMA allocation, there was an announcement today that New York State would qualify for that FEMA contribution. Is the question, that those funds ultimately should flow to the organizations or the counties that have had to preemptively put out the investment. But we have been working on the FEMA issues and have been able to get FEMA to work with us in the state to make sure that we get access to those important federal funds, because this is an unanticipated crisis. So if there's a county specific issue, let's follow up on that specifically. But my understanding is that today, FEMA did make the announcement that New York would receive those funds.
That is correct. And I think that's what's paying for most of the state sites, or going to help reimburse the cost of those state sites. So basically any FEMA reimbursement would have to be money that the counties expended then. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Anybody else have any questions for the Congresswoman? Done? Anything else you'd like to close with? I don't see any questions.
No, thanks for the opportunity to connect. Please don't hesitate to reach out. If you have any constituents that are in your county legislative district, whether it's IRS cases, stimulus, SBA issues, please reach out to our office. We will get to work on them immediately. And thanks so much for the open line of communication and all that you're doing. Thanks for the opportunity to update you tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by.
Bye.
Okay, there we go. Let me see. Next, reading of the minutes of the last session. Is there anybody that runs any of the minutes read? Hearing none. Is there any additions, deletions, or corrections?
Mr. Gray?
Yes. Mr. Maxon.
One correction to the minutes. I'd like the minutes from last month to reflect the fact that the waiving of the standing rules was not unanimous. I was opposed to it.
I can't hear a word you're saying. I don't know if anybody else can.
He asked if you could correct the minutes because it was not unanimous on the bypassing the standing rules. Remember Jeremiah, Legislator Maxim, and apparently the minutes didn't reflect that. He'd like it to reflect that.
Okay, we will make that correction. Is there any other additions, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, then they'll stand as presented. Presentations of petitions, notices, and communications. Mr. Hagman. Where'd you go? There you are.
We do have a couple this evening. First, we're in receipt of a letter from Ag and Markets Commissioner Ball certifying modified Ag District Number 2 plan as was proposed. We also this evening have on file annual reports from 4 different departments: Planning Department, County Auditor, Elections, and Probation. That's all.
Okay. Reports of standing committees.
A report of the Finance and Rules Committee reporting favorably on resolutions number 42, 43, 45, 47, 50, 51, 52, 53, 56, 57, and 58.
Okay, reports of county officers and others.
We have two. First, a report on the county treasurer on investments and cash on hand. And secondly, a report from the county administrator on budget transfers last month.
Okay, hold on. All right, sorry. My apologies. Okay, local laws, resolutions, and motions. So before we get there.
Yeah, we're all set, but you want to make a note?
Yep. Yep. So wherever you see roll call, what we'll do is we will I'll read I'll call out the resolution number. Mr. Hagman will read the resolution title. We will open it up for discussion, and then we will go on until we reach the last roll call vote, and then we'll take them in a block. If any member wishes to pull one of the specific resolutions out, there we go. If anyone wishes to pull one of the resolutions out for a separate vote, we will do that. It's easier if we just do a block and a roll call. So with that said, resolution number 25.
First resolution this evening is amending the 2021 county budget and capital plan to recognize 2021 revenue from Fort Drum Residential Communities Initiative.
Discussion? You just hit the raise hand function. Done? Okay, resolution number 26.
Amending the 2020 county budget for sales tax distribution.
Discussion? Done? Okay, resolution number 27.
Amending the 2021 county budget in relation to Samaritan Senior Village Incorporated.
Discussion? Seeing none? Okay, resolution number 28.
Concurring in the settlement of tax certiorari proceedings and authorizing refund of taxes in connection therewith for Jefferson LeRae LLC, Northview LeRae Associates, Essex Evanstown Associates, and Conifer Reilly.
Okay, this is a non-roll call resolution, so we will take a vote at the end of discussion. Is there discussion on this? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 29.
Amending the 2020 county budget in relation to employment and training department.
Discussion. Done? Okay, resolution number 30.
Amending the 2021 county budget in relation to employment and training department.
Discussion. None. Okay, so at this point, unless there's a desire to remove one of them for a separate vote? Any hands? No hands. Okay, so we'll do a roll call vote on resolution number 25, 26, 27, 29, and 30. Mr. Hagman?
Legislator Monticelli.
Yes.
Reed?
Excuse me. I just need to apologize for my tardiness.
Legislator Reed?
Aye.
Beck?
Yes.
McBride?
Yes.
Nabawanik?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Jarrow?
Yes.
Maxon?
Yes.
Barco?
Yes.
Grant?
Yes.
Bildo?
Yes.
Ferris?
Yes.
Drake?
Yes.
Cantwell?
Yes.
Gray?
Yes.
Motion carries. Motions.
Motions. That's right, motions. Resolution number 31, Mr. Hagman.
Authorizing appointment for the Jefferson Lewis Workforce Development Board.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 32.
Reappointing member to the Regional Fish and Wildlife Management Board.
Discussion.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Maxon.
As this is a matter of environmental conservation law, I will be abstaining.
Okay. Duly noted. Further? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Abstention? 1. Resolution number 33.
Reappointing members to the Jefferson County Industrial Development Agency.
Discussion? None? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 34.
Appointing Director of Office of the Aging.
Discussion? No? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 35.
Expressing opposition to the closure of the New York State's Watertown Correction Facility.
Discussion? None? All in favor, aye? Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 36.
Supporting New York State Senate Bill 8466, Assembly Bill 1054-6 of 2020.
Discussion? None?
Yes.
All in favor, aye?
Excuse me,
Yes.
Scott.
Oh, hold on. Yes, Mr. Drake. Yes, I'm sorry.
I apologize for being a little late. I'm going to oppose it. I expressed it already. I hate to repeat myself, but I will. I don't think this is the time for this. The pandemic, the only way we're going to beat it is by social distancing, mask, tracing, and the vaccination. And hopefully the vaccination get enough quickly so that we can outrace some of the mutations that's going to develop. Although I do agree with parts of this, I just don't think this is the time to resume normal government. I know it's a very difficult time for some of the people in the lower end of our social economic ladder, also for businesses. I also realize that the democracy has been taken away and that certain vision, checks and balances aren't there anymore at the state level. I realize that. I do like to point out that I had the privilege of listening to the greatest generation talk about what they did in World War II, not only in the battlefield, but at the home front, as far as limiting travel, rights taken away, rationing, et cetera, et cetera. And when they talked about it with pride. They didn't really complain, and they did it so that I could have a better life. Mistakes were made by the federal government at that time. The Japanese-American internment was definitely a mistake. Mistakes are being made now by Governor Cuomo. I realize that. Again, I just don't think this is the time for it. One thing I do want to say that a lot of the people above me and the generation of my parents, they weren't Roosevelt fans, but they didn't have Roosevelt signs in their yard. I just think it's time to lower the temperature, and maybe we can lead by example with the generations below us. And again, I'm going to vote no on this.
Okay, Mr. Drake. Further discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Giro.
Actually, Mr. Maxon was first. Can you let him go first?
I didn't see his hand raised. Sorry.
He had it raised for quite a while, so go ahead.
Okay.
Thanks, Mr. Giro. I want to speak in support of the resolution, specifically because it is, because I've read the Assembly bill. It's a 3-page bill, and I would hate to think that there were any members of our board that would vote without reading it. This is a basic civics. I mean, we live in a representative democracy. It is important that we continue, even in emergencies, to function as a representative democracy. It's important to note that the Senate and Assembly bills don't end the emergency. It doesn't resume normal governance. All it does is it requests that the legislature isn't allowed to completely abdicate their elected responsibility. It requires the governor to check in with them, I want to say every 45 or every 30 days. The legislature must remain a part of the government in order for our government to operate constitutionally. I support the resolution because it requires specific reasons why the governor ought to be allowed to impose by executive order or overrule laws specifically to cities and counties. We saw all summer long very few COVID cases and no fatalities. And yet we had the same draconian restrictions that they had where there were hotspots. And we didn't have hotspots not because of the draconian restrictions, but we bore that brunt of that regardless. And now that COVID is here, and now that we are seeing so many of our friends and neighbors sick, so many of our citizens dying, people are chafing under this yoke from Albany. Chafing because all summer long, Mansville is not Manhattan. There was no specific reason why we should have been required to do the same things they were doing in Brooklyn or on Long Island, where the disease was rampant. And finally, I support the bill because it's not a partisan attack on the governor. It's sponsored by Republicans, but what it does is it empowers the Democrats who control the Assembly and the Senate to have a seat at the table. It isn't a partisan. We're not throwing anybody under the bus by supporting this resolution. It requires that our elected officials act like they're elected officials and not phone it in for an entire year now, allowing one person to rule. I think it's been long enough that we've been ruled by executive order. And if these orders are such good ideas, I would urge the legislature to pick them up and pass them into law. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Mr. Darrow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to, and Mr. Maxon spoke really well to my thoughts, but Mr. Drake at the committee meetings spoke about it lowering the temperature. I think it's important. I think there's nothing more important for us to do than to support our constituents' basic rights. And I think that's what this resolution does. And I don't think the language in here has a high temperature. I really don't. I think it could have been raised up actually to some degree. I think it's a very important part of what we do is represent our constituents, and I don't think there's anything more important than ensuring their basic freedoms as part of our representation. So that's all I wanted to say on it. Thank you.
Okay, further discussion? None? Mr. Drake, I'll just ask you to just hit your raise hand so you lower your hand there. So, okay, if no further discussion, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Yes, Mr. Drake. Okay, one opposed. Okay. Resolution number 37.
Number 37 is authorizing agreement with the New York State Unified Court System for cleaning and maintenance of court facilities.
Discussion? None? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 38.
Authorizing agreement for janitorial services for Jefferson County Office Building.
Discussion? None? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Sorry, seem to be jumping on these folks. Resolution number 39.
Changing the membership and terms and approving board members to the Jefferson County Fire Advisory Board.
Discussion? None? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
One.
Carried. Oh, who? Mr. No, right there? Okay, one opposed, Mr. Hagman. Okay, resolution number 40.
Implementing a mattress fee for solid waste transfer station.
Discussion. None? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 41.
Authorizing implementation and funding of the first federal aid state Martincelli program aid eligible costs of a transportation federal aid project, appropriating funds therefore.
Discussion? None? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 42.
Amending the 2020 county budget and capital plan in relation to the county bridge account.
Discussion? None. We will hold this, do the General Service Committee sponsored resolutions all at once as well with a roll call vote for all of them. Same procedure as Finance and Rules. So resolution number 43.
Amending the 2021 county budget to reappropriate road machinery fund equipment.
Discussion? None. Okay. Resolution number 44.
Approving appointment to the Jefferson County Planning Board.
Discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 45.
Amending the 2021 county budget to reappropriate comprehensive economic development strategy update grant funds.
Discussion? None. Okay, we'll move on to resolution number 46.
Amending resolution 269 of 2020, authorizing agreement with the Community Action Planning Council to promote fair and equitable housing.
Discussion? None. All in
Chairman
favor,
Gray?
aye? Yes, I'm sorry.
I'll be abstaining on this one.
Okay. Further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed. None opposed, one abstention. Duly noted. Resolution number 47.
Amending the 2021 county budget to reappropriate New York State septic system replacement program funds.
Discussion? None. Okay, at this point, is there anybody that wishes any one of those four resolutions to be pulled out separately? I would assume not, with no discussion. Okay, so we're going to have a roll call vote on resolution number 42, 43, 45, and 47. Go, Mr. Hageman.
Legislator Calarco,
Yes.
Ferris,
Yes.
Yabawanik,
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Beck,
Like we lost him.
Bobo,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Monticelli,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Jero,
Yes.
Maxon,
Yes.
Cantwell,
Yes.
Drake,
Yes.
Gray.
Yes, and you're correct. All I had to do is check my watch. We are missing John. He had an emergency out in the barn. So,
Okay.
so he had to step away. So, oh, the virtues of being on virtual meeting. So, okay, resolution number 48.
Accepting grant for ignition interlock device monitoring program funding.
Yes, discussion. Let's start, Mr. Ferris.
I will be abstaining from this, Mr. Gray.
Okay. Sorry. Further, any other discussion? None. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Oh, there's Jack. Guest appearance by Jack. Say hi, Jack.
Hi.
Hey, sounds good. Resolution number 49.
Authorize an agreement with All Paid Incorporated relative to credit card processing services.
Discussion? None? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I'm in a meeting. Okay, let me see. Resolution number 50.
Amending the 2020 county budget relative to mental health programs and authorizing amended agreements in relation thereto.
Discussion? None? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Jack. Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 51.
Amending the 2021 county budget to reappropriate federal Medicare administration reimbursement for the Community Services Department.
Okay, and we will conduct the roll call at the end with the Health and Human Services Committee sponsored resolutions like we have done with the previous two. So is there any discussion on resolution number 51? None. Okay, resolution 52.
Amending the 2021 county budget to reappropriate funds for Veterans Peer Support Program.
Discussion? Okay, resolution number 53.
Amending the 2021 county budget to reappropriate Delivery System Reform Initiative Payment Program funding for Community Services Department.
Discussion? None. Okay. Resolution number 54.
Authorizing Jefferson County Public Health Services to utilize volunteer assistance to locate testing and vaccination sites and obtain sundry services in connection with COVID-19 pandemic services.
Discussion? None. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 55.
Changing the membership and terms and appropriating members to the Jefferson County EMS Advisory Board.
Discussion? None. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. One opposed.
Opposed? Yep, one opposed. Okay, carried. Resolution number 56.
Accepting donation on behalf of the Department of Social Services and amending the 2021 county budget.
Discussion? None? Okay, resolution 57.
Amending the 2021 county budget relative to additional revenue from the Red Lake Horwitz Foundation for Child Welfare Virtual Casework.
Discussion? Okay, resolution 58.
Amending the 2021 county budget relative to additional revenue from the New York State Office of Children and Family Services for Safe Harbor, New York funding.
Discussion? None? Okay. Is there anybody that wishes any one of those roll call resolutions to be pulled out for a separate vote or further discussion? Hearing none, then we'll have a roll call vote on resolution number 51, 52, 53, 56, 57, 58. Go, Mr. Hagan. You're on.
Legislator Johnson.
Yes.
Drake.
Yes.
Ferris.
Yes.
Nabawanik.
Yes.
Grant.
Yes.
Jarrow.
Yes.
Boldo.
Yes.
McBride.
Yes.
Cantwell.
Yes.
Calarco.
Yes.
Maxon.
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Monagelli.
Yes.
Is Peck back yet? No? Okay. Great.
Yes.
Okay.
Resolution number 59.
Amending the 2020 Comprehensive Planning Resource Allocation Agreement with the New York State Office of Children and Family Services and authorizing amended contractual youth program agreements in relation thereto.
Discussion? None? Roll call. Or excuse me, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 60.
Authorizing 2021 Comprehensive Planning Resource Allocation Agreement with the New York State Office of Children and Family Services and authorizing contractual youth program agreements.
Discussion? None? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. That concludes our local laws, resolutions, and motions. Is there anything to come before the board this evening? Any questions, concerns, comments?
Mr. Ray?
Yes, Ferris, go. Mr. Ferris.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate your time. As I've talked to you earlier this week and multiple times last week and a couple other legislators, I've had a bunch of constituents giving me phone calls in support of trying to open sports for the schools. They believe it's very important. I've been getting emails and text messages of other school systems throughout the state and a lot of our neighbors moving forward wholeheartedly and safely as they can possibly be. I have told most of these people it's very difficult to come out against our supporting this with the amount of deaths that we've had in our county. And I don't mean to be callous with any of that, because that's a great concern to all of us. I understand that. But other school systems around us, south of us, east and west, they're starting to open up their school programs and sporting events, or at least they're giving the image of that happening and starting to move forward safely. Some are using the matrix of 4%, but most of them are not mentioning that. They're basically saying, we can do this safely and securely. I've asked most of these people to approach their school boards and ask them to get their school boards and administrators online to present the county with a proper plan. Once again, as you're aware, Scott, I told the county really doesn't control what happens in school or how they do their projects. That simply we would just give the guidelines, and if there was a plan to move forward, submitted and agreed upon, it would be a lot easier to show some support for that. But I know as an ex-school athlete, it gave me a lot of. I'm very passionate about it, and I'd like to see the kids play. Most of these people that I talk to, their kids are traveling to Syracuse, Albany, around different areas, and they're parts of these other teams, and they're being safe and they're being careful, and they've had no spread because of what they've been doing. I'm not sure what the county can do to try to help the schools to open some of these, to release some of the restrictions. I see that we came down again today to 7.6, I believe, is the matrix that Bob sent out. As we've talked before, that kind of gets skewed by not testing everybody in the world, by only testing people that show symptoms. And it seems like we're getting punished for that in the county, that our kids are getting punished for that in the county. I would like to see if we can push forward and see if we can help the school systems and be the leader as you have been with our vaccination centers. So if there's anything we can do, I'd appreciate some help.
Oh, first of all, let me just say we have tried to help the systems, and we have. So it was really a collective decision of the school superintendents. So it's nothing. It's probably the most difficult decision that has been wrestled with. And I think Ginger will attest to that. She's on and she can add whatever she wants to. But this was by far none probably one of the more difficult decisions. We have gone forward with them and tried to help them get their sports up and running. There are many school districts who, as you saw in the paper today, who are just opposed to it. And for whatever reason, they have their own reasons. They have their valid reasons. I'm not here to be judge and jury or anything on their reasons, or none of us should be judge or jury on their reasons. They have their reasons. Other school districts have their reasons for wanting to open sports, regardless of whatever the conditions are out there, and that they're entitled to that opinion too. So it was really a collective measure on the school superintendents to arrive at a compromise that where we set some of the guidelines based on that discussion. So it was it's entirely in their domain, and so if you want to help a school district, you can. I would encourage people, if you want to help them, is to encourage people to go get tested. So that does two things that is beneficial in terms of identifying and isolating the virus in our community, which ultimately contains some of the spread. And the other thing that it will do is eventually over time lower the percentage that we're looking for that was set in the guidelines. So some of the school districts, they've chose more restrictive measures. The state guidance permits spectators, for instance, permits 2 per player with a maximum of 50 people. School districts didn't want any spectators. So that's really what we tried to do, I believe, and I say we as an organization, tried to capture what the majority of the school superintendents were looking for and to proceed safely. And we just simply said, here's the guidance, and it's a go forward as far as we're concerned. So, Bob, Ginger, anything you want to add?
Mr. Gray?
Yes.
Thank you again, Mr. Gray, Chairman Gray. Some of the articles I read about the Onondaga schools and Oswego school systems were basically not even mentioning the moving average, the 4%. They were just talking about the safety of getting kids back in school. One of the parents said to me that there's no guidelines that says it has to be below 4%. And some of them said that's a 14-day moving average. Some of them said it would be a 7-day moving average. Their plans are, for the best part, kind of all over the place, and really, I guess, kind of developed by the school system and the superintendents and the different committees that came up with their plans to follow through. And when I was asked why is Jefferson County being so restrictive on the plans, I simply said we have guidelines that we follow. The school systems can say we can do better if we do it this way, and that we would look at it at that point. And once again, they asked me, where do these guidelines come from? And, they're not really etched in stone, if you will.
It was where they came from was a consensus of the school board superintendent, the school superintendents, where they came from.
Thank you, Mr.
Derived
Gray.
from many meetings. So I don't know necessarily as we looked at Onondaga or Oswego, I think there was some movement within the field of competition across the region, but I'm not necessarily sure. We went down into Syracuse and looked to see what they were doing. So it really was there really was a consensus of school board members or school superintendents. So, further discussion? Anything else come before the board?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
to go on Mr. Ferris's points there, I appreciate what you and Mr. Ferris both said. Local control is the best control. They have their own governing bodies. Each school district has their own governing bodies. And I really don't think this is in our wheelhouse. This is not what we were elected for. The school districts need to make their own decisions. And I appreciate what Mr. Ferris said about local control. And I also appreciate you letting those entities decide what they need to do in their best interest. That's the way it should be, in my opinion. And I think that's what we're doing. Obviously, state guidelines are state guidelines, and they have to submit to those. just like we have to submit to state guidelines. But yeah, this is a decision that the local boards and districts have to make on their own. So we can guide and help, but this is in their court, and they need to do the right thing for their own constituents. So thank you.
And that's exactly what we did, Mr. Jarrow, and that is guide and help. And if you look at the state guidance, the state laid out guidance and essentially gave us veto power over high-risk sports. And we opted not to take that position and just to help and guide them. And that's where it belongs. It belongs in the school boards to work with their school superintendents. I concur wholeheartedly.
And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep.
I agree as well as Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Doldo.
Just one question on the testing. What's the latest on the turnaround time on it?
I tested Saturday, had my results on Sunday.
So they've improved quite a bit then.
Yeah, I think it varies, but yeah.
Thank you.
I try to test weekly, and I tested Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, and I had a text with my results on Sunday. Yep. So that was at Samaritan's drive-through. So, any other questions, comments, or concerns? Going once, twice, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded by Ferris.
Second. Motion made and seconded. All in favor, click your little red button that hangs it up. Have a good night, folks.
Good night.
And drive home.
Okay.